Geek Insider presents Geeky, Cheeky, and Downright Freaky with Matthew Harris. He's taking a closer look at some of the wonderfully weird, gloriously geeky, and freaky things in our world.
And it helps if I put myself on camera before the end of the little broadcast there, the little intro. Welcome, everyone, to my little portion of Indie Vent, INDEEVENT.com. We are a little over halfway through the weekend. I don't know if y'all were all just tuned in, but we had several of the directors from the Deadly 10, Charles Band's Deadly 10 Full Moon Features, which I'm a huge fan of Puppet Master and a lot of the old Full Moon shows or movies, I should say. And so it was great meeting with them. And I had originally planned for this show to be an hour, but we went a little bit over with those guys. And really and truly, I probably could have talked to them through this whole segment here, and maybe should have, because we were just having some good fun with them. We had quite a few folks in the audience. I had some questions going, but I wanted to lead into our after hours. This is the last, official part of the con for today, or the con. Oops, Meredith's going to kill me. The event. We don't like calling it a con because, well, we're not it's not a convention. We're not competing with the brick and mortar conventions. We're not trying to make them extinct. We are in an event, and today's show. This one is one that I just kind of thought would go right along with the whole theme of the weekend, and kind of put my spin on things with being all three: geeky, cheeky, and downright freaky. And what I'm talking about is sex in comics, and I'm not talking just about Mr. Fantastic and Sue Richards going to bed together. I'm talking about some really freaky kind of sex, and I'm not talking about all the indie comics out there, and a lot of them are strictly are focused in that vein, whether it's straight sex, BDSM, LGBTQ. You do have those genres where the ones I want to look at today is the big two, DC and Marvel. Because aside from Wonder Woman being created by the guy that was having a polyamorous relationship, William Moulton Marston. Yeah, I think that's it. But anyway, he was in a relationship with two women, and that's kind of where the idea of Wonder Woman came from. And then, of course, the early comics dealt with a pretty good amount of bondage. But there are some issues of some of your favorite comics, Batman, Avengers, Green Lantern, that have had some freaky, or not freak, well, yeah, freaky in these cases. We're not even talking fetish here. We're not talking, to each his own and float whatever floats your boat. These are some pretty blatant, overt sexual things that happen in these comics. And you've probably heard of some of these, especially this first one, which is the rape of Miss Marvel. We've covered this a couple of times on Geek Insider. It's the Avengers issue number 200. This, like I said, we've covered it twice, but it's a really, really weird storyline. It starts with Carol giving birth after she was, or Miss Marvel, after she'd been pregnant for like 3 days. And then the baby grows up in just a matter of a few days, names himself, says he's Marcus. And then things start getting a little complicated. We find out that Marcus is actually the son of Immortus, and then a woman that looked like an awful lot like Carol Danvers. And so you kind of start scratching your head here, going, "Wait a minute, how can he be their child if Miss Marvel's his mom?" Well, Immortus was stuck in limbo, and in an attempt to produce an heir, he uses some magic, and he pulls a woman from Earth, and he uses a mind control machine and gadgets on her, and he ends up impregnating her. And then he sends the woman back to Earth, but Marcus, the Miss Marvel's baby, gets caught in the interdimensional connection between Limbo and Earth, and so he's left alone in that interdimensional connection because Dad Immortus disappears as well. And so he's stuck there for a while. Well, he decides to, I guess the fruit don't fall far from the tree. He decides that he's going to escape, and he gets kind of Freudian, and he falls in love or finds himself extremely attracted to Miss Marvel because she looks so much like his mother. And just 1 second here. All right. She looks so much like his mother. And so he abducts her, pulls her into this interdimensional place and makes a little love nest. And he tries to win her over the good old fashioned way, but it doesn't work. And being the son of Immortus, he doesn't take no for an answer. And so he uses Daddy's tech to mind control Carol and force her to change her feelings about him. And so he bends her, he changes her will, so to speak, and they have sex. And no matter how you look at this, using mind control to change her mind, it's an illegitimate, intimate encounter. There's no judge that would say that this was consensual, but he impregnates her with his essence. And so as soon as he impregnates her, he disappears, and then he uses more tech to wipe her memory and puts her back on Earth just a few seconds after he had kidnapped her. So he kidnapped her and raped her in order to get her pregnant with himself, sort of. But he raped Carol to make a gateway to Earth. Okay, but there's no two ways about it. Miss Marvel was raped by her own son, and at the time she liked it. Well, you would think that would be the end of this twisted tale, and it's not. Marcus's presence on Earth causes a huge rift, and all kinds of crazy shit starts happening. And he realizes that he's got to go back to his dimension, and that's where things go even more sideways. Miss Marvel reveals that she's going to go with him, and that she has deep feelings for him. This is a mix of feelings because he's her son, and the lingering effects of the mind control device. But she says she's hasn't felt like this about anyone in a long time. And that's where they made love. Sorry, I got these out of order. That's where she was having the baby. This is where she reveals that she's going to go back with him. And so you got some freaky stuff going on with Miss Marvel. And, granted, you could say, well, that's an older comic, and they had to give Marcus, some way to exist. Well, incestuous rape. And that's not the freakiest thing that has happened in the comics between Marvel and DC. I'm going to go a little fast through some of these, faster than what I had anticipated, because I know that I'm going to be shorter on time than what I had anticipated, because we do have the Indie Volt Live coming out after hours after me, and then there's Rob Anderson with the Devil's Advocate, which I'm going to be joining him, I believe. And so there's still a lot of fun left tonight. But getting back over to the sex in comic or freaky sex in comics. This next one you probably know about if you're any sort of a comic book fan, and that is the rape of Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. Um, this was this scene. You can see that Barbara's naked. It you definitely get under the impression that she was raped in the Killing. This is in the Killing Joke, by the way, which is by Alan Moore. And then they did an animated movie of the same name, and it is a great twisted tale, but they really go into a little bit more graphic in the animated movie. And he not only rapes Barbara, but then he tortures Jim Gordon with the photos of it. And he rapes Barbara after he shoots her in the spine, so that she can't even protect herself or try to thwart his attempts there. So that is another case of rape. But the next one, this one was really funny to me, and in more than ways than one, because I had never heard about it. And then when I did, it brought up all kinds of jokes. I'm sure you've heard those various jokes where, Superman and Wonder Woman and having super sex. And then, of course, there's the one where the Invisible Man gets accidentally violated by Superman because he was already with Wonder Woman. And if you don't know that joke, DM me and I'll tell you the joke. It's not that funny though. But those jokes may actually pale in comparison compared to what transpired in The Dark Knight Strikes Again. This is written by Frank Miller too, and I don't have the year that this one came out, but there is actually several panels in this where Supes and Wonder Woman pretty much destroy a lot of shit having sex. They I lost my place marker there. He takes her, and she even says it in that panel that's up, that he took her like his rightful prize. And in page after page, there's about 8 different pages where they shatter mountaintops, they cause earthquakes, they create a tidal wave while having sex, and they don't seem to care that this is, possibly killing, numerous civilians, because she's ready for round 2, as you can see in this panel. But anyway, so Wonder Woman and Superman destroy a lot of stuff just to get a little hanky panky. Still not so bad. But what we're about to get into, there's a couple here that are just really head scratchers on how the writers came up with it, or why they came up with it, and then B, how the publishing companies could have let them go out the door. Because you got to remember, these Marvel and DC, these are aimed at kids. Now, granted, there's a lot of the readership is older guys, 18 to 25, 35. But those that really want to read them are the kids. And, like Barbara's rape and Miss Marvel's, or Barbara's rape and maiming and Miss Marvel's rape, and the public displays of affection between Superman and Wonder Woman, those were pretty edgy. But Hal Jordan, in the 1980s, he was with Arisa, or it's not Arisa, it's Arisia. She's a 13-year-old alien member of the Green Lantern Corps. And, no, he doesn't molest her, not in that way at least. She starts showing feelings towards Hal, and she's kind of flirting with him rather awkwardly, and he rebuffs her and even reprimands her at one point or a couple of times. And he points out the fact that she's half his age, and she tries to explain to him that on her world she's actually on her world she would be twice of what she is on Earth, and so she's just trying to justify it. And that goes that way for a couple of issues. But in Green Lantern Corps 206, Black Hand traps Hal and her in a cave, and suddenly, poof, her body is transformed into that of a grown woman. What it is that her Green Lantern ring, her power ring, responded to her will to be a grown up, and she even claims that it matured both her mind and her body. And at first, Hal doesn't fall for it. He's like, nope. He tells her he's not interested in starting anything with anyone at that point. But that only lasts for a couple of panels, because then, bam, next thing you know, they are oops, making out. And this one, you can even see where Hal says, and I can't even read that. I have to show them I'm not a child molester. Now, you would think they're on the right track. Okay, they understand that this is going to look wrong, but no, they're making out just a few panels later. And then 207, the writer explains that it's because they try to explain it anyway, that due to love and her body and maturity, or due to love, it's because of love that her body and her maturity fast forwarded due to the ring. But one lantern even points out that she hasn't had all the experiences of growing up, but it's all brushed off. And not too much later, they are hot and heavy, and they break up a while later. I don't know which episode they break up, and it probably did get retconned in the New 52. But if you go and look at that episode, it's rather cringeworthy, because they just really try to justify it. And there's another one that we'll talk about here in a minute where they really try to really stretch things to justify it. But for this next one, you may or may not want to put what's her name? Oh, doggone it! I just had her on the tip of my tongue. Uh, Elizabeth Olsen, her portrayal of Wanda, the Scarlet Witch. You might want to put her image or her portrayal of the Scarlet Witch out of your head for this one, or you might not, because a lot of us. I know you were probably like me, that you got more than a little tear in your eye when Wanda lost Vision in the Avengers movie. And we don't know, what those two got up to, but we kind of we assume that they are not assume. We know they're in love, but we weren't, we didn't have any insight into their private time. But in Ultimates 3, we see a pretty kinky side of the Scarlet Witch. If you remember, she has a twin brother, Quicksilver, which he gets portrayed in two different movies by two different people. In the Avengers, he's known as Pietro and Quicksilver, and then in the X-Men First Class movies, he was known as Peter Maximoff, and they didn't ever really refer to him as Quicksilver, I don't believe. But in this issue, the Ultimates 3, the two siblings give in to whatever kind of lust that there is between them, and they give in. And then, sure enough, if you look there at the bottom panel, there's none other than Wolverine watching them get it on. And so we not only have a little bit of incest going on here, we got old man Logan hiding in the bushes and watching. And now I don't know if there, off the top of my head, if there was repercussions out of that. But I was just sitting here trying to look through. Oh, but the other thing is that there is a talk of a sex tape between Tony Stark and Black Widow in that same issue. So they're not only going to have a little bit of incest going on, they're going to put Black Widow and Tony Stark not only having sex, but having a sex tape. Now, let's see, is this the one? Oh, this is next one is from Justice League, The Rise of Arsenal, number 3. And this has been called the worst comic ever, and it's just, there's more than one reason. But Roy Harper, who, if you watched Arrow or on CW or you know the Green Arrow comics, Roy Harper, he's been known as Speedy, as Red Arrow, and Arsenal, and kind of switched around a couple of times. But he ends up having sex dreams, daydreaming about sex with his ex, Cheshire, while he's having a fight with Cheshire. And I guess he gets a little bit more than just a little turned on, because a little while later, he's got her tied up. He tells her she likes it rough anyway, and then he tries to take advantage of her, but he can't get it up. And yep, they really talk about that in the comic. He wasn't able to perform. And so that was, again, some little freaky stuff going on there, that he's going to tell her she likes it rough. He's got her tied up. And I guess, he won the fight, but then she won overall because he just couldn't perform. And just one second. Oh, and then since he can't get it up, he suits back up, heads back out to kick bad guy ass and do some heroin. Yeah, he hallucinates and envisions that a dead cat is his baby. You can see why this one is called a bad issue, or one of the worst comic book issues. And just one second, just making sure there wasn't no comments. When I'm doing these kind of shows, folks, and I'm flipping back and forth, I forget to look at chat. And Meredith is probably still over talking with John Lachago. He hung around, and so she's probably still over there wrapping that up. And in case you're wondering why I'm a little off tempo tonight, it's because everything going on today, I didn't get a chance to put all my notes together for this show, and so I'm piecemealing it together from things that I've already had in the past. And so sorry if I sound a little out of sorts, but it is what it is. I wanted to make sure to get this show going, and because I want you all to know, on Wednesdays I usually do the Geeky Cheeky and Downright Freaky. That's Wednesdays at 7 Central, and then it is rebroadcast the following week on our podcast, where you can get wherever you do your podcast. But it is mostly a show that you want to check out on YouTube, because a lot of times I am showing images, I am showing videos, and we have special guests sometimes. Not a whole lot on this show, because this one usually I'm covering stuff like the Mandela effect, or, are we living in a simulated universe, different things like that. And then today, of course, we're talking about some freaky sex stuff in comics. And I believe that this next one is the last one that I had today. Yep. And so I went a little too fast, a little faster than what I thought. But there's another rate, and this one, and it gets the royal brush off by the writers. They just kind of brush over it after the fact. But some of our favorite superheroes from DC do some pretty shady shit to cover this rape up. It's in the 2004 miniseries Identity Crisis, and the pregnant wife of Elongated Man, Sue Dibney, she's found murdered and burned to death. And members of the Justice League, which is Green Arrow, Black Canary, Hawkman, Zatanna, and the Atom, they console her distraught husband, and then they tell them something that only they know. It's that, hang on just one second. Somebody just popped in on me. It's Meredith. Hello, Meredith. I figured it was you, but anyway, so the heroes they tell him that Dr. Light teleported into the Justice League satellite headquarters while Sue was all alone. He chased her down, and she was able to alert the Justice League, but Dr. Light used his powers to bind her, and then, of course, he rapes her. And the heroes arrive, and they beat the living shit out of Dr. Light, but being a bad guy and the writers being on crack that day, he uses his holographic powers to show them the rape and then promptly promises that not only is he going to find and rape Sue again, but he's going to do the same to all of the Justice League's loved ones. And so, of course, they immediately locked him up in a supermax prison for super bad guys, right? Nope, not so much. Green Arrow, Oliver Queen, he tells Zatanna, or he says that Zatanna should erase the memory of Dr. Light. And after some debating back and forth on whether they do that or just magically changing his brain from a sick and twisted sexual sadist to that of a more normal villain, they opt for the memory wipe. They just wipe the rape out of his mind. So he doesn't remember that he raped Sue. But Zatanna misses the mark and she fries him. Just 1 second. Rob Anderson says Dr. Light is a dick. Yes, he is. And so you could call it, karma, but she screws Dr. Light up. But the JLA doesn't even stop there, guys. They figure that my main man, Batman, would never keep the secret. And so Zatanna uses the same mojo on him. But of course, she forgets that she's fucking with the main man, and it's revealed down the road that Batman knew all along that she had wiped his memory and why. But it just goes to show that sorry, I was reading something. All right. Sorry. Having to read stuff from Meredith because she finally showed up. She's late. I'm trying to get over here where I could take that damn thing off is where I was trying to get. But yeah, so that is enough of the weird sex stuff in the out of DC and Marvel. I'm sure there's probably more. I did this actually for an article a while back on GeekInsider, and I was really amazed. I knew about the rape of Miss Marvel, and I had heard about the Hal Jordan stuff, but I didn't know this other's crap because I would have made more Superman and Wonder Woman jokes. But anyway, that is that. God. See, and this is why we don't do the shows without me having an outline and having everything together. But I have just been busy today, as well as Meredith. And I'm going to be doing another show here in a little bit with Rob, I do believe. And then as you can see, I'm only a quarter way through my whiskey. So it's not that I'm buzzed yet, but I will be. But I also have got to say the word of the day, if y'all been tuned into Indie Event, I even got who was it? It was Danny Draven, who is the director of Ouija's Halloween Night. I got him to say it, and that is Buttbeard, #Buttbeard. And now, because this is my show, Meredith had told me that it is the result of the discussion this morning, and it's about grooming. But I've got a beard here. And I have had butt beard before, but it's usually because my mouth was on something good. And so that was the first thing that popped through my head. And that's why I was kind of asking what the definition was. But apparently it's grooming, and which that works too. But when you have a long beard, things kind of go places. You get food stuck in there. It's a flavor saver. But anyway, Meredith's cracking up in the background now. But folks, people are commenting now on the butt beard. We really appreciate y'all joining Indie Event. This has been a blast. We don't do this, to try to further our name, which of course we do throw it out there. If you haven't subscribed to Geek Insider's YouTube, please do so. Check out our podcast. But the main goal of this is to give everybody a little bit of entertainment that's out there, especially here it is the weekend. A lot of places are closing back down, a lot of cities. And then, of course, we want to help support the indie artists. And as you tune in through the rest of the evening, and then tomorrow, don't forget there's a whole schedule of events tomorrow. You can check that out on indiaevent.com. That's INDEEVENT.com. Because we got a lot of cool stuff. And if you missed any segment, you can go to YouTube, check out Geek Insider, and we've got the shows there. They come on just immediately after their broadcast. And so if you missed the one with Full Moon Features, you can go and check that out tonight or tomorrow, later tonight when there's no other shows on. But give everybody some love. I am actually going to cut it out just a few minutes early so that I can get something to drink and then turn on to the next show. But thank you all very much for tuning in. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Send out the hashtag buttbeard and hashtag IndieEvent. Let's keep it going. And who knows, we may have to keep buttbeard going tomorrow because we've had it on every show so far today, and it made it through the entire regularly scheduled stuff. And so now we're going into after hours. And so I'm sure buttbeard will make it over there as well. We might even have to do a different word of the day tomorrow, but I kind of like buttbeard. And I never thought that would come out of my mouth. But y'all have a great rest of your night, everyone. And we will see you. I will see you on the Rob Anderson show here in a little bit. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to Geeky, Cheeky, and Downright Freaky, a Geek Insider production powered by NSC Live TV. Become part of our show with sponsorship and advertising opportunities. For details, contact advertising at GeekInsider.com or visit podcast.geekinsider.com. The Geek Insider podcast is available on your favorite app, so please hit the follow button and share it out to your friends. Because if you don't, you might have to turn in your geek card.